Welcome. I'm Candace Shibley. I'm a water conservation coordinator with the Division of Water Resources. Appreciate you guys joining us today. As we get started, feel free to continue to use the chat feature and say hi and just tell us where you're joining from. As we go through the presentation, don't hesitate to ask questions at any time, but I would love it if you would use the Q&A feature for those questions versus chat. Just helps me stay a little more organized as we go along. There will be a survey that auto-generates once this event is over. If you could just take a minute and tell us how we're doing and share some feedback, we always appreciate those comments. Just some quick background as to why we're doing these monthly events. Our goal is to support people that are planning and establishing and maintaining waterwise landscapes. And the intent is to complement the Landscape Incentive Program, which offers up to $3 per square foot for lawn that's replaced with water efficient landscaping. That price point does vary by location, so hopefully the tools that are showing on your screen will help you determine eligibility as well as program guidelines and answer any questions you may have. If you are planning to participate in the program, please do not kill your lawn until the project has been approved. We do need to verify that there is lawn within the project area before you get started. So before we get started, I just wanted to give a quick plug for our Report a Water Win program. If you see someone going above and beyond related to water conservation, or if you want to share a story of your own, you can use this form to do that. You can even share some pictures of your landscape or the project that you're working on. We love to see them. We'd love to hear your story. And if you're interested and okay with it, we'd love to highlight that project on social media as well. So this is our final event of the season. Don't worry, we will be back at it again in February. Today we have Casey Finlinson from the Central Utah Water Conservancy District joining us, and Casey is going to cover what we should be doing in our yard to get things ready for winter and kick our spring season off correctly. So Casey, I'll turn the time over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Candace. I'm just making sure, does this look the way it's supposed to? We got it up and running?
It's great.
Okay, good. Um, and some of you may be wondering, well, what does an employee of Central Utah Water Conservancy District know about end of season yard care? So I just uh, wanted to explain a little bit of my background so you have an understanding. So my school background is in landscape architecture and ornamental horticulture. So I'm definitely a plant person, and I used to run a demonstration garden that we had in Orem at our headquarter office. We've since moved away, and I don't do that anymore, but I'm still helping with the landscape incentive programs. I do the commercial programs. So plants are in my blood, and I'm excited to talk about some of the things that I do and talk about fall especially. This is a great time of year. This is our former demonstration garden, and I just wanted to show some pictures. I like pictures. I like presentations with pictures. I think those are the most telling, but plants do some really cool things in the fall. Just looking through, the different colors that we get, and these are the contrast between like this red and yellow, the cotoneaster with all the colors that it gets. It's just a really fun time of year. I hope you're enjoying it out there. I know I have been. The grasses are at their prime now, and um, there's some flowers that we haven't seen till kind of late summer into the fall now, like these asters and flowering crocus. That's kind of a fun one. And then all the fall events that go on. We used to do a pumpkin walk at our garden, and we had some fun events go on there. So this is a great time of year. We're 2 days before Halloween, so I'm just kind of excited about it. Just wanted to share that with you. Uh, what I'm talking about today is just a lot from what I know, but also I've taken some information from a Weber County Extension publication a little bit about some of the turf, anything that I address about uh, lawns. That's where that comes from, and that's what I've been following. And then some USU articles from Tom Bettis and Helen Muntz, both individuals that I know. So just so you're aware, and you could go back and look through these if you're interested. So let me just start with, before we completely shut down our sprinkler systems, it's good to give one last deep tree watering and maybe to all of your plants. And that's if needed. This year we've had a record-breaking wet October, and you may not need to do something like this. So, but I would go check your soil and see. It's good to make sure that you've got some good moisture in your soil for the trees and all your plants. And then I should go back and say, and then, during the winter, if it ends up being a dry winter, you may need to check, especially your evergreens, to if the soil, you don't want that soil to dry out. And so you may need to go out and water with a hose or something in that case. But let's hope it's not a dry year this year. Hard to know. And so during the summertime, we like to keep our lawn longer, 2.5 to 3 inches. It's kind of the recommendation, and now it's time to cut that down. We like it longer in the summer because that doesn't dry out as quickly. And now we're not so concerned about our lawn drying out. It's starting to go dormant, and we want to cut it down shorter, 1.5 to 2 inches, so that our lawn is going to be less prone to like snow mold or other diseases that could come in. And it just keeps it nice and tidy for the winter. So for on my mower that I have, it's got like 7 different notches, 7 settings that I can raise or lower to. Typically during the summer, I'm on, I think it's the fifth notch, and then I'm moving it down to probably the third notch on mine. So you can kind of gauge on your own mower where that is, and you wouldn't want to go from really tall to really short in one cutting. You just each time you mow, go down the next notch till you get to where you're comfortable. So, and if you didn't know, I'm a hand model, so there's a view of my hand. It's in a couple of these images. I'm just cheaper than a regular hand model, I guess. And of course, now it's important to shut down your sprinkler system if you haven't done that already. Mid-October to, beginning of November for at least northern Utah. I don't know if we've got people from St. George or Moab areas, but uh, my experience is predominantly here in northern Utah. And this is a picture that I took 5 years ago, driving past a business about this time of year. I could tell that their sprinklers were still watering, and they didn't need to be. And it wasn't just their lawn that was, magically covering everything where the sprinklers hit. And that's unnecessary. So that's a waste of water. I have not watered once in October this year. We really haven't needed to because of all the moisture that we received. And so it's been well over a month since I've watered at all. So if nothing else, we're at least turning off our sprinklers, not watering this time of year. And then this picture I just wanted to show, this was November of last year. This is a business I drive past on my way to work, and I caught them in the act of watering. So you can see that sprinkler's going. We don't need to water in November, definitely. And I was, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's up to their landscaper who just hadn't gotten to it yet, but it's not hard to just shut off the sprinklers and not water when you don't need to. And maybe I just need to go talk to, we're not the water police, but I don't like to see the water waste like this. And I just drove past this morning and they're watering. It's not icy yet, but they're still watering even this. I thought they would have learned their lesson when they saw me out there taking pictures, but I guess not. So, so we want to make sure to turn off our sprinklers, but not just do that. Like we should have done that back at the end of towards the end of September, probably. Really didn't need to water at all. But now we want to blow out that irrigation system. And this isn't going to be a tutorial on how to do that. I don't actually do that myself. I have a neighbor who has a landscape business, and he gives everybody in the neighborhood a discount price to have him do it. So I pay somebody else to do this, but just as an explanation of why we do this, and what it is, we're basically connecting an air compressor to our sprinkler system to each zone and blowing as much of that water out of the system as we can get, because when water freezes, it expands. And if you've got a pipe full of water, that's going to crack your pipe as that freezes and expands, and then you've got a leak in the spring. And so we want to clean out as much as that water as we can so that that doesn't happen. And so you could definitely look up some YouTube videos to kind of see how to do that. um, I just find it easier to pay somebody else. It's probably going to cost you somewhere from 60 to $75, I'm guessing, somewhere around that, to pay somebody to do that. To me, is that's worth it. This is just a picture of kind of that air and water shooting out of the sprinklers, and once they're all kind of cleared, then you go on to the next zone. And if your system is connected, your irrigation system's connected to um, culinary water, then you'll have a backflow preventer, and you'll need to drain that out as well. That would be part of what you would pay somebody to do, just so that you this would be a very expensive repair to make if anything cracked in here. So important that you do that. And along with that, make sure you detach the hose. And usually when I've said this, I've had somebody who just moved from Arizona or something, and didn't know that that's an important step. Reason being, you've got water in that hose, and that can also freeze and go right up into the pipes in the house there, and could crack those pipes. And so we want to make sure to detach the hose at the end of the season, so that we don't risk getting any pipes cracked there either. Now, this may not be a necessity, but this is what I'm following from that Weber County sheet that I talked about. And I only fertilize the lawn 3 times a year, and the third time is right after Halloween, after the trick-or-treaters have come by. You fertilize with basically straight nitrogen. And um, obviously this photo is not in November, but we can pretend. And ammonium sulfate or urea are great options for that. I use just kind of a fall fertilizer, and just showing a picture, an old picture of my yard, but mine's on the right hand side. Hopefully you can tell where the fence line is there, versus my neighbor. This is a winter shot, so just keeps the grass looking nicer in the winter, but then in the springtime, it's going to green up faster and just look nicer as well. We haven't turned on our water or done anything yet, um, but it just greens it up faster. And I'm not going to say much about weeds, because I believe that was your last topic. But if you're trying to kill weeds with herbicide, the fall is the best time to do that, the most effective time, just because um, the weeds are starting to prepare for dormancy, kind of pulling everything down from their leaves and everywhere else. And so you spray them, and they pull that um, herbicide down with them. And that's all I'll say about that. And then um, you hear us talk about needing 3 to 4 inches of mulch in all your planting beds. And that's because it helps retain water and suppress weeds, but it's also a way of kind of insulating the ground. And so during the winter time, that'll help protect your roots, give them some insulation. So fall is a good time to, the mulch breaks down over time if you're using organic mulch like bark or wood chips. And so you do need to replenish that every once in a while, year or two. And so um, fall's a good time to just make sure you've got your 3 to 4 inches, add another layer on there if needed, to help keep your roots protected during the winter. And then one of my favorite things is planting bulbs in the fall. It's one of those things where you've got to prepare now for the spring by planting in the fall, and then we've you've got some nice spring color. So when I say bulbs, I'm talking about multiple different types of bulbs. This is tulip bulbs I'm showing here, And I like to do, this is probably dig a big hole and put like 50 bulbs, 25 to 50 in one hole. It's easier than doing one at a time in my rocky soil. And so you just dig a big hole, put them in, and then cover them back up. So we're talking tulips. So there's example of tulips, daffodils, crocuses, hyacinths, alliums, and there's others as well. This is the time you want to be planting those. You still have time to go do that if you haven't done it yet. And then we also want to clean up our vegetable gardens. So here's what mine's looking like. I need to clean this up. We don't want to leave any debris that could harbor pathogens, any diseases or pests that might hide in there. So we want to clean it all up, get rid of all the dead material, decaying material, and just make it look nicer and be safer for our plants. And then now is a great time to add compost as well to our vegetable gardens. You can mix that in, get it work in the soil before the spring. So we clean all that debris out and we put in our compost. Moving on to back to our planting beds, we can start cutting back perennials as they kind of die back and go dormant. And again, that helps with relieving any kind of pests or diseases that may hang out on decayed or dying material. And then, of course, this goes without saying, but raking leaves, and most importantly, out of our lawn spaces. Leaves can benefit a lawn, but you'd want to chop those up with like a mulching mower blade or something like that. Get little tiny pieces back into the lawn. That would be beneficial as long as it's not a ton. But leaves can smother the lawn and also um, be a place to harbor disease. And so I remember, I think it was maybe 3 years ago, we had a really exceptionally warm October, and then it turned cold like overnight, and the trees didn't have the time, the warning enough to kind of prepare their leaves to drop, and so it just kind of froze. And all the trees, most of the trees kept their leaves for a long time, and it wasn't until about Christmas time that they started falling off. And so by then it had snowed, and so I had leaves on the ground, snow on the leaves. And it wasn't until sometime in January that the snow melted and I was willing to go out and rake up my leaves. And I already had snow mold in my lawn off of those leaves. So we'd really like to clean up the leaves off the lawn. You can chop them up and compost them and add them back. And they can be really beneficial, but we don't want to leave them on the grass. Okay, there's young Casey back in the garden days. This is just my proof that I really do like work outside I'm not always in an office, or at least in my younger days, right? So ornamental grasses. This one, I'll say I actually prefer to leave ornamental grasses till like March to cut back because they do add winter interest. So I said, if desired, you can cut these back once they've kind of gone dormant. For me, I that's usually around Thanksgiving time. In our garden, we had so many ornamental grasses that, and November and March are times when I didn't have any seasonal employees to help me. So I would do as many as I could in November, just so that I didn't have as many to do in March. But the ones I would focus the most on were the ones that would kind of lean over onto sidewalks and make snow removal a little difficult. So it's okay to do that in November and also in March. Just they look really nice until the snow flattens them. Okay, and then um, once we're kind of done taking care of all of our landscaping and plants, then it's time to sharpen our tools. it's so easy to say, not that I'm really good at doing this, right? Okay, I'm done. I'm going to go sharpen my tools. But um, you could either find a tool sharpener to pay to do that, or if you're comfortable doing that yourself, get out the big file and do that and get everything prepped and ready so that once, the end of the winter, beginning of spring happens, you're not like, oh, my tools are all dull. And so, anyway, just to prepare for next year. And this one, I'm going to bring this one up, Candace, just because Tom Bettis recommends this from Utah County Extension. I've been doing it. Uh, let's see, JD Gunnell recommends it from Davis, I think Davis County, and also Katie Wagner from Salt Lake County Extension recommends doing this, where our young trees have very thin bark. And during the winter time, what tends to happen, at least in northern Utah, is we get freezing temperatures, and then some days it can warm up enough where it's above freezing, and it can start activating cells and sometimes even sap, and then it goes below freezing again, and those cells can die, and it can just be a little harmful to the tree. And so wrapping them like this helps avoid that from happening. Um, and it's a tree wrap, and I don't know how well you can see me, but this type of tree wrap that's kind of a fabric that you just wrap around young trees. And I would say mm, what I've heard is the 3 to 5 years after planting, but it depends on the tree and how thick that bark is. You just want the bark to thicken up, and so it's not as big of an issue. Just up from the base all the way up to like the first branches, and I've been doing that, and it just protects the trees. So there are videos out there with Tom. Each of those individuals has a video, I think, that I mentioned from the different county extensions. And then I threw in here evergreens as well. Some of the evergreens, they keep their needles, their leaves all winter long, and depending on their branching structure, may be more susceptible to flopping over or breakage. So here's an example of that where we had wrapped it, but not very well, and the winds blew it off, and so that can just damage branches. So you can try to find evergreens that their branching structure is more downward versus upward like this, and then that won't be as big of an issue. I know my parents have had some skyrocket junipers that they've never wrapped them, and they've had to cut branches off every year when it snows just because of this. So just kind of loosely wrapping so that snow can kind of shuffle off and melt off without damaging it. And then it's recommended to not prune at this time of year, just because pruning um, kind of invigorates growing, promotes growth, and can put off or can make a tree like put off going dormant, which could make it a little more susceptible to cold temperatures. So just in the research that I've done, this is not the ideal time to prune. You want to wait more towards the end of the winter, beginning of spring, depending on what your plants are, to prune. So I would hold off on pruning this time of year. So looks like I stayed within my time frame there. There's my contact information, and now um, Candace is opening up to questions, and I don't claim to have all the answers, and Candace can help out answer questions too, but I'd be happy to answer what I can. So
Well,
it looks like we do have some in there. Are you going to be reading them to me, or do you want me to just read them?
if it's cool with you, I'll just read them to you.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
We've had a few questions come in about the tree wrapping. Just for
Okay.
clarification, do you remove that in the spring?
Oh yeah, I didn't. You prepare and you just forget some of the things that you prepared. So yes, definitely. So Ton Bettis has talked about painting. I'm seeing the one that talks about painting fruit trees trunks and with a white latex paint. I don't personally like that. I know for orchards that may be just because they're into food production and just a one-time deal for them. But um, so yes, you remove it in late or early spring, like March into April time. It's just during the lots of freeze thaw times. So I usually put it on in November here in Utah County, and then we'll take it off beginning of April. So it's not something you want to keep on during the growing season.
And it's not something that you need. It's just for younger trees. So it's not something you'd have to do for your older ones.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's just as the bark is thin, you just so again, sometimes I'm hesitant. I'm like, I don't know if it's thick enough yet, so I'll put it on another year. But once the bark starts to look thicker, then it shouldn't be necessary. And I do see somebody saying something about protecting trees against deer, and that is one of the things I saw in the instructions for this tree wrap here, where it's like um, that's what it's good for, is protecting at least the bottoms of trees against deer.
Cool. So for like if they do choose to paint the trunk instead of use, especially for fruit trees, instead of using the tree wrap, once that bark like thickens up and the tree matures, do you think they still need to paint, or is that something they could skip altogether?
Um, I don't know that you would need to do more than one paint on. I mean, I guess I don't have any experience with painting, and so Tom Bettis would be better at answering that. But yeah, you wouldn't need to keep doing that. As I wouldn't think so. You know
Yeah.
what? I'm not into fruit tree production, so I wouldn't think so. But I'm not going to give you a for sure answer because I don't know for sure.
I would agree with that. I think that the paint typically lasts like 3 to 4 years. Like
Yeah, I
it's
wouldn't think you would need to.
one of the
Oh, sorry.
it's one of the benefits and one of the reasons that the like bigger orchards will do it just for like it's less cost and
Yeah. Hmm.
less labor. Um, okay, so we've got a couple questions about just winterizing perennials. Do you have any more like tips or tricks, especially for folks that are like in their first year? Like maybe they just planted this fall and just want to give things a little extra blank
Care.
in the winter?
Um, I and you can give your opinion on this too, Candace. So I actually, what I was looking through in my sources, my resources that were saying to do that. I don't typically cut most of my perennials back at this time of year just because I get a little concerned that it might be more susceptible to freeze, and maybe I'm just a worrier. So I like to wait actually till the spring to cut most of them back. But you can cut them back in the fall as well. And basically, I would wait until it's died all the way to the ground and just cut all the dead growth off. So that's most likely going to be all the way to the ground for most perennials. Some of them, there are different types of perennials out there, like lamb's ear might still be okay, and you don't need to cut much off of that one, or lead plant or something like that. So it really depends. But for the average perennial, yeah, you're just cutting it to the ground because it's just going to create new growth out of the roots next year.
When you say cut back to the ground, like how close are we talking?
Well, I just
Is it
cut where the dead is. So it may be an inch or two off the ground. That might be better in the fall to leave a little bit of stubble there for it, but not very high off the ground. Yeah.
cool? Um, I'm just gonna share this quick. I just got one of these from the neighbor, um, that they were just cleaning out their garage and didn't want it anymore. And it is like it is the coolest little tool. My kids really like it. So like I'll set them loose on the perennials like when we're cutting them back and I think it's kind of cool. I just wanted to share.
I need to stop sharing my screen.
Oh, did it not pop up?
I don't see it.
Oh, let me do it again. Is it sharing that time?
I think I have to stop sharing. Oh, there we go.
You can see it?
Oh, okay. You know what? I also bought one of those a few years ago. It's battery powered.
Yeah, you just plug it in and like, oh my gosh, my kid thinks it's the coolest. It's so fast.
That is a great trimmer. Yeah. That's and you're using that on your perennials?
Yeah, just perennials and it works great for the grasses. Um, I agree. I leave mine up for the winter. I just like the way they look. But when you made that comment about making your spring easier, so getting a start on it in the winter, I never even thought of that from a large garden management standpoint.
Uh, yeah, that I just had to do that with because we had so many grasses. So it cutting it in half made it easier.
It's smart.
Okay, so looks like Mary's asking about covering perennials. Um, so you shouldn't, I mean, if you're planting things that are a little marginal where you live, then you may need to, but I don't do that. I mean, I do like to experiment a little bit, but make sure you understand what your hardiness zone is, and most likely um, along the Wasatch Front is probably like a, well, they put us in a 7 now, which I don't necessarily agree with. I would at least look at like zone 6 plants and zone 5 plants. Um, and then they should be okay where they should be able to handle the winter is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, if you've got good mulch around the base, they should be okay. But even without that mulch, they should be okay. Okay, in Payson, yeah, similar. So you're probably technically a zone 7, but I would at least assume you're a zone 6. So just make sure you're planting plants that can tolerate zone 6.
Cool.
Okay. Oh, there's somebody. Okay, so oh, sorry, I'm taking over.
Yeah, that's fine. You just, just to get to that question, you mentioned that you like sometimes you leave yours. Are you doing that like for beneficial insects?
Um, Not necessarily for insects, more for the plants, and because I don't necessarily want to go out that time of year. In the spring I'm getting excited to be out in the yard. By November, I'm kind of like, oh, it's getting cold, and I'm such a wimp when it comes to cold, that I don't want to work as much, but I also want to make sure the plants are okay. But yeah, you could definitely do that to provide habitat for beneficial insects and probably birds and other things as well.
Cool. Um, how do you feel about potted plants? I'm assuming that this comment's related to like something perennial in the potted plant, and how to care for it for the winter. Connie, correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah, generally potted plants I think of as like annuals, and so you wouldn't need to worry about that because they're going to die anyway. We have a pomegranate, a Russian pomegranate that was donated to us from USU as a trial in our garden. And when we moved away from our garden, I put it in a pot and um, brought it here with us to our new site near the mouth of Provo Canyon. And it stays in that pot outdoors. And then probably this week, we're going to be moving it. It's already lost its leaves. We're going to move it indoors. And so I'm not sure what your situation looks like if you just have a giant permanent pot that you have something in. Hopefully, it's already insulated. They do make insulated pots. Okay, so a pot is more exposed to the temperatures, like cold temperatures, and so even if it's perennial, it could be, a microclimate where it's going to get colder there. So I haven't. We just I had we had a bunch of large pots that were insulated that we would grow annuals in, but we would usually have like a perennial grass in the middle. And I didn't cover it. We would just cut it down sometime during the winter, and it was okay. It really, but I did notice that we would put tulips in there, and usually around the edge, the ones that were closest to the edge were not as there weren't as many. It's like some of them died. So you could try. I don't know. Have you covered? I've only covered like vegetable gardens in the early spring before with
Mm.
like frost fabric. So you could probably try that if you were concerned about your perennials.
A few things I just kind of have fun doing some propagation stuff in the backyard. And so just from my college days, like working at the nursery, like in the winter, we just kind of gather everything together and then pile straw on top. And that's how we'd overwinter the pots at the nursery. And so I just kind of
Mm.
do that same practice. Like you typically on the north side of my house, just any pots that I'm playing with, I'll pile them up and then I'll just throw my leaves on top. Um, my shredded leaves like from the lawnmower bag and then just uncover them in the spring and I've had pretty good luck with that.
That's a good idea.
Let's go back to grass. Do you have any tips for like if anybody has warm season grasses, what they should do um in the winter that might be different from a cool season grass? Not winter, but preparing for winter.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't put the fertilizer down then. Um, and we had buffalo grass at our demonstration garden, and that's one that doesn't take foot traffic real well. We learned that the first time we did our fall event, and that was where our donut booth was, and it got trampled and didn't come back very easily. So it's already gone dormant. There's not a whole lot left to do, but cut it short and then keep it at that for the winter.
How short did
That's
you
my experience.
how short did you go? Was it similar to Kentucky Blue?
Yeah,
Same.
yeah, probably about 2 inches.
Cool. I wasn't sure if there was a difference there. Um, cool.
Maybe some technical person would say there is. I don't know. We didn't do it, so I only know from my experience. We didn't cut it really shorter.
Seem to do well. I don't have any experience with buffalo. I was curious
Yeah.
from a personal perspective. Um, well, cool. Well, Casey, this was great. Thank you for your time. Great
Oh,
questions. So thank you to the audience for the participation. This is being recorded. We'll send the link out shortly. Again, please fill out the survey. Let us know your thoughts. Feedback is always welcome. And this is our last event for the season, but we are excited to get started again in February. So if you have topics that come to mind this winter that you'd like us to cover next season, don't hesitate to reach out and share those with us. Um, Thanks everyone and have a great rest of your year. Thanks.
thank you.
See you guys.